For some, healing is a vocation, and for others it's a deep personal calling. For specialist vet Tanya Schoeman, it's both. Yet Tanya was challenged to put aside her medical knowledge, move beyond her training, and trust in something far bigger than science.
I have an inherent desire to heal, and that comes out in many aspects of my life. I think it's a matter of communicating without words and feeling at peace and feeling comfortable.
Tanya's a vet who specializes in internal medicine. She has a deep love and a passion for her work.
I can see you in this environment.
I love it.
Yeah. Did you always want to be a vet?
Absolutely. My mom says I was about 2 years old, and she said, "What do you want to be?" And I went, "A vet." And it never changed.
But people are so close to their animals. I mean, you're a psychologist, you're a social worker, you're a medical professional.
You're all of that, yes. I love it. I love people, and I love speaking to people. So I love the animals as well, but luckily I've realized I also really like people. I'd say growing up I was probably more comfortable on a one-to-one basis than in a huge group. And I think that reflected as well in communicating with animals.
Tanya grew up in King Williamstown in the Eastern Cape and loved the intimacy of a small town environment. Nature played a big part in her formative years.
It was very carefree and happy, very happy. And then we moved to Pretoria, which was a completely different ballgame, and went to this big school where from standard 6 to matric there were 1,600 pupils. So I think in a way I always saw myself as outside looking in on this big sea of blue pupils, this mass.
As a student, Tanya had her life mapped out, and with her trademark hard work and determination, things fell into place. She matriculated with 7 distinctions, was accepted at Onderstepoort to pursue her dream of becoming a vet, worked in the UK, and eventually returned to South Africa. While at university, she'd met and become close to her life partner, Henk Human.
I met Henk in my 3rd year at varsity, and we met at a braai, a student's braai. All the way through all my studies and my specialization studies, he was patient and understanding and really supportive.
Henk and Tanya got married and decided to move to Cape Town. They were doing well professionally and things were going according to plan. But they felt it was time to shift into another phase of life.
Once we were settled and we had our house and our jobs and time was ticking, we sort of realized that it's probably time for us to start a family. It's so difficult.
It's about the whole cycle of life, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, life, death.
Because of the nature of our practice, there's a lot of very sick, very old patients, because we see referrals from vets with cases that they sort of reach the end of what they can do. So we carry a lot of people through cancer and organ failures and death. I'm just about to see a little doggy with cancer again now. I realized one day that from the nature of my current practice, I was dealing with death an awful lot. And I had to go through the emotion and the stages of death with myself, with my patients, and with their owners. And we tried to have kids for a while, and it was quite difficult. And something in me clicked, and something in me realized that I'm entertaining death all the time, and how can I expect to harbor life within myself? So I actually stopped working for a while. One night I went outside and I looked up at the stars, and I sat there very quietly. It was in the middle of the night, and I looked up at the sky and I basically said to the universe, Maya, Luca, if you're ready for us, we are ready for you now. If you want us, please come. And we'd always known what their names were. And 3 weeks later, we found out that we were pregnant.
But you called out two names.
My mom's one of a twin, and we have quite a few twins in our family, but it is just something that I always knew, and I always knew it would be a boy and a girl.
Tell me about the journey.
Tanya was really looking forward to the whole pregnancy and the experience. I think it changes your relationship to your body immensely. And the other thing that was interesting is they knew they were going to have twins. From the beginning, both Henk and Tanya said, we're going to have twins.
The first trimester of the pregnancy went well, but during a scan to monitor the development of the babies, things took a worrying turn.
At 24 weeks, we went for a routine scan, and the radiologist at the time sort of looked at me and she said, Tanya, I'm quite worried because I can see that there might be a problem. And it turned out that the pregnancy was just too heavy for my body to carry. So they realized that I was a candidate for premature labor, and they admitted me to hospital, and I was confined to bed rest.
Henk phoned me and he said, Tanya is in hospital. They were really still at a stage where every day now counts. Every day that she can keep those babies inside might give them a chance to survive. So we were all very, very concerned.
It was a crucial period for the babies. Their lungs were still developing, and if they were to be born prematurely now, their chances of survival would be slim. They would not be able to breathe on their own.
And then things became very serious when she started bleeding, and they had to make immediate decisions, getting those children out.
The night that I had to go for the emergency cesarean, our pediatrician came into the room and she said to me, Tanya, the statistics are that 1 out of 3 babies survive at this age, and you have 2, and you must realize that the odds are against you.
First-time mom Tanya Schoeman was 25 weeks pregnant with twins when her babies were delivered via emergency cesarean 3 months before their due date. Dangerously premature, their statistical chance of survival was slim. Trained as a medical professional, Tanya knew the stakes, and that even if her babies survived, it would be a long and difficult road ahead.
I saw them for the first time once they were hooked up on ventilators and had all sort of tubes and feeding tubes and drip lines. Luca weighed 730 gram at birth, and Maya weighed 670 gram at birth, which is not just over a block of butter.
But I remember Henk phoned me just after they were delivered. We were all waiting and just holding, you know, them in that situation, and he said, my children are born and they're beautiful. And he was so excited.
They were about 14 centimeters, but very, very, very tiny. It was a complete new world for us.
This is the album when they were in hospital.
Yes, it's an album that I just put together afterwards with a few pictures we took. We didn't take many pictures. I think it was maybe just too traumatic for us, but...
This is a wedding band?
That is Henk's wedding band, and it covers the entire width of Maya's back. Just to try and get perspective of how small they were, really.
You can't get, even looking at this, it's hard to believe. So they were the most prem of all the babies.
But 2 days later, both babies suffered life-threatening brain bleeds, a common occurrence in severely premature births. The blood vessels in their brains were dangerously fragile, not having had the chance to develop sufficiently. Luca's was the most extreme.
That evening, the pediatrician called us in and she said, because of Luca's severe brain bleed, we cannot predict what will happen, but there's a very good chance that he will be brain damaged. And we can't say if it will be mental or physical or both, but there's a very good chance that he could develop cerebral palsy. It's something that you two must decide, and if you decided to discontinue treatment, we would stop treating and we would let him go. I asked a lot of medical questions to try and get clarity, and then I became a mom again.
If she kept the hat of the scientist on, it would have made her stay in a headspace where she knows this is the prognosis, this is the reality, and I've got to make my choices accordingly. And instead she said, my journey as a mother has started when those children came into me, and I'm going to respond as a mother. So she started responding from her heart space. And the heart space is the space where miracles can happen and do happen.
So we left the hospital and Henk and I went out to Hart Bay Beach, and we just sat on the beach and talked about it. We were in such turmoil, and we were mentally and physically and emotionally exhausted trying to deal with these type of questions, because these are such deep moral issues that you never allow yourself to go to. But once we decided that it wasn't our right, and one thing that we both said to each other was, who are we to say that what was given to us is not good enough for us? We both there made a pact to support them and to give them whatever they need in life if they were to fight and stay with us. So we basically sat down and prayed, and we said, if Luca's not meant to be for us forever, then please take him, but don't let us make the decision. Emotionally, after 3 days, we were already so invested and so much in love with those two little creatures that you cannot put that into worth, and you cannot draw up a balance sheet on emotion.
I cannot tell you how much respect I got for those two people that faced significant odds, and that just dropped in and said, as long as our children are fighting for their lives, we want you to do everything you possibly can to give them a chance, and it doesn't matter if they're not so-called perfect or so-called normal. What is normalcy in any event? We want them. They're ours, and we'll do everything we can.
Exactly a week after they were born, Henk and I phoned into ICU early in the morning to hear what their night was. And we spoke to the pediatrician, and she said they had a good night, they were both stable. And we said, great, we'll see you a little bit later. 2 minutes later, Henk's phone rang, and I just heard him say, what? You can't be serious. And he put the phone down and he looked at me and he said to me, Luca's dead.
I remember the whole time while we were on this journey with him, the thing that they both constantly said is, we can handle anything as long as there's hope. And he said that was the moment where he realized, well, now I'm done.
Tanya and Henk couldn't believe that they'd lost their son and rushed to the hospital.
We ran up the stairs to the ICU, and when we got there, there was a screen put up next to Luca's bed, and I remember looking at the screen thinking, today it's me that's going behind that screen, and I now need to be the parent that has just lost a child, and I don't know how to do this. We went behind the screen. Luca was lying in his little incubator with his eyes wide open, and he was breathing. We sort of looked at the pediatrician and we said, oh, what's going on? And nobody can explain what happened. They were busy changing his breathing tube, and while the tube was out, he stopped breathing and his heart stopped. The pediatrician tried to resuscitate him. After a few minutes, she pronounced him dead, and she came to phone us. And they were busy wrapping him up in a towel and while they were wrapping him up, suddenly his feet became pink again and his whole body became pink, and he gave a cough and he started breathing. All through the world, every day, parents are told that their children had passed away, and the only thing that any parent would pray for is a miracle, that for some other reason that wouldn't be true. And today that was our miracle, and we had lost a son and he came back.
Luca had defied death, but his sister Maya was not yet out of danger. She had to have eye surgery and contracted a superbug which forced her tiny body into septic shock. Tanya and Henk were told that this was the sickest that either of the twins had ever been.
I looked at all her blood results and I realized that if I had a 60-kilogram healthy athletic dog that had such a severe infection, I would give him a very, very poor prognosis. That evening when all the nurses went home, they said goodbye, and we could see it. We could see that they said goodbye to their little patient. And we sat next to a little bed. The next morning when the nurses came, they didn't want to walk into ICU, so they walked down the corridor first and sort of peeped through the window. And when they saw her lying in her bed, they ran into ICU and they could not believe it. They were in tears, all of us were, and she survived. I think we could breathe for the first time.
Specialist vet Tanya Schoeman's severely premature twins survived against all odds. Brain bleeds threatening their lives and leaving their future uncertain. Today, Luca and Maya are 5-year-old healthy, intelligent bundles of energy, reminding Tanya and her husband Henk every day of the wonder and miracle of life.
Because we knew about Luca's brain bleed, we were very vigilant about signs of any motor outfall. So we went to a physiotherapist every month to have him checked. And when we got to 6 months, we realized that he does have a mild form of cerebral palsy. And so we started physiotherapy at 6 months already. And we've been going once a week for the last 5.5 years. Mooi. Mooi. That's it.
Dit is jou mou, dan is dit oupa Frans. En die ander kant is oupa Henny.
He's an incredible spirit, and he is such an intelligent gift to the world. And yet he faces daily struggles and daily hardships. I think now that it helps them to know that on some level that child made a very clear choice to say yes to the journey.
Maya has done incredibly well with her motor development. If you compare her to her peers, she would be slightly behind, but she's done incredibly well.
It's easy to say life wouldn't give you something that you can't handle, but the reality is life often gives us something that we cannot handle, and then we have to choose. Are we going to become bigger than who we are currently so that we can? Or are we going to stop? So I don't want to say that, she was suited to this kind of journey, because nobody really is. Her scientific background and as a vet, almost her medical knowledge, I think definitely serves the children. The fact that she's chosen a helping profession around animals. So there's something about who Tanya is that has the capacity to use her intelligence and her skills to take care of others. And I think those things are serving her very well on her journey. But I think the thing that serves her the most is that she said yes
Tanya is also a person that actually approaches you and challenges you in terms of wanting the best for her children. She's not unrealistic when you tell her this is the expectation or these are the limitations. She actually has understanding for that. But then she comes back and she's researched a lot of stuff and she says, anyway, isn't this the route we should go? Isn't that the route we should go? But it's always been an open two-way communication.
Wat se feelings is dit as jy vir my sê, Arina, stop! Is it a feeling of fear? Anger? Is it anger? Hoekom is dit anger? Want dit is, want jy raak kwaad as ek dit doen. Ja.
So we talk about emotion a lot, and we explain to them that they don't walk a normal road, and it's different. But it's our job to get them there and to help them be the best that they could possibly be, whatever that means. So we've also had to let go of a lot of our preconceived ideas of what good and successful and worthy is, because it comes in different packages.
Is jy reg? Ek hou jou been en trek. Jy kan maar wegskop as jy wil. Hier.
We get incredible joy from very, very small achievements.
Walking was our main priority for him. I know it, and she knows it. It wasn't going to be an easy road. And so far, we've been doing very, very well. Luca's really a bright, intelligent little boy.
I was away on conference, and something just said to me, go home. The day after I came home, Luca gave his first step. And it was one of the best moments of our life. It has taken us 5.5 years to get here. Henk and I often look at them and we know that they're going to be absolutely fine. And I know that both of them are going to be absolutely brilliant. I see myself as the facilitator to get them there. And it's my role to constantly let them know that they're nurtured and loved, and to support them and to give them the tools to get there, to be brilliant, and to get them there as unhurt as possible.
En wat is dit? Sleutel. En wat?
I listen to myself telling the story and I almost cannot believe it myself. And I've also realized that there's so much hope in there, and there's so much miracle in there as well, that if one other parent were listening to this and they were at the point where they had to make a decision, it might be helpful to them to know that it could turn out for the best as well. And it might not be easy always, but it could turn out beautiful.
I am still small, a young boy, trying to find his feet in a big, big world that sometimes slides from under me. And my mother came home in a big, big plane. She said, son, one day you're gonna be a man, so you gotta try to make a stand today. In a big